I always believed that my dad would walk me down the aisle. He used to say it when I was a little girl, lifting me up, spinning me around the living room, saying, "One day, I'll hand you off to someone good enough to deserve you, someone who looks at you like you're the whole world." But when my wedding day finally came, he wasn't there. He wasn't sick. He wasn't traveling. He wasn't dead. He just refused to come. Let me rewind a bit. I'm Emily Carter, 26, only child. Born and raised in Virginia, my dad, Jack Carter, was a small-town legend. A retired firefighter, the kind who risked his life a dozen times but never missed a single parent-teacher conference. He raised me alone after my mom died in a car crash when I was 4. And to me, he was everything. Strict, yes. Overprotective, absolutely. But he loved me, deeply, fiercely, and I never once questioned that. I met Ryan at work. He was a new architect at the firm I was interning at during grad school. Polished, confident, with the kind of smile that made people forget what they were saying mid-sentence. I liked that he didn't try too hard. He didn't flirt, exactly, just observed. Noticed things, little things, like the way I tapped my pen when I was thinking, or how I preferred to sketch with green ink, not black. Our first real conversation happened over coffee in the break room. 2 hours later, we were still talking. By the end of that week, we had our first date. Ryan made me feel seen, not just admired, understood. I was falling fast, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like Jack Carter's daughter. I felt like Emily, me. When I introduced him to my dad 6 months later, something shifted. I had never seen my father so quiet. He shook Ryan's hand, firm but cold, and then didn't say much for the rest of the dinner. No jokes, no stories, no dad grilling the boyfriend routine I was bracing for. When Ryan left, my dad waited exactly 10 seconds before looking me dead in the eye. "You're not serious about him, right?" "What do you mean? He's incredible." "You didn't even talk to him." "I talked enough." That night was the first time in my life my dad and I yelled at each other. I asked why he hated Ryan. He refused to say. I asked if he wanted me to be alone forever. He left the room. I thought he'd come around. I truly did. We got engaged 9 months later. Dad didn't congratulate us. I sent him photos of the ring. No response. I invited him to dinner. He canceled. Again and again. And then one day he sent me an email. Not a text. Not a call. An email. "Emily, I won't come to your wedding. I can't stop you from marrying him, but I won't stand there and pretend. One day you'll understand why. Please don't contact me again." That was it. No explanation. No, "I love you." Just cold finality. I cried for hours. I screamed into my pillow. I punched my steering wheel in the grocery store parking lot like a crazy person. And then I did the only thing I could. I went through with the wedding anyway. But 6 months into our marriage, I found something. Something that made my blood run cold. Something hidden in an old photo album in my dad's garage, back when I finally got the courage to return to the house. And that's when everything started unraveling. It had been 6 months since my wedding. 6 months of silence from my father. Not even a birthday message. No Merry Christmas. Nothing. Ryan kept saying, "Give him time." But I could tell he wasn't all that broken up about it. My dad never liked him, and Ryan, while polite, stopped pretending to care once we were married. That should have been my first red flag. But I ignored it. I missed my dad more than I ever thought I could. So one cold January afternoon, I drove back to my childhood home. I had the key. My father hadn't changed the locks, which I took as a sign. Maybe a small opening. I told myself I was just there to grab a box of old books from the attic. But really, I wanted to feel something. A connection. A trace of the dad I once knew. The house felt abandoned. Not physically. Everything was in place. But emotionally, it was like all the warmth had been vacuumed out. I found the box of books, but before I left, I walked into the garage. My dad used to spend hours there working on his motorcycle, fixing old tools, storing everything in obsessive rows of labeled containers. I don't know why I did it, but I opened the far cabinet under the workbench. Inside, a dusty stack of photo albums. I pulled one out, an old, thick, leather-bound one I'd never seen before. The first few pages were exactly what you'd expect. Baby pictures of me, snapshots of my mom, our tiny backyard with that old, rusty swing. Then, around halfway through, the photos changed. There was a picture of my dad and Ryan, together, younger, but unmistakably them. They were standing in front of a building that looked like a halfway house or a treatment center. My dad's arm was around Ryan's shoulders, both smiling, both looking happy. I felt a chill crawl up my back. I flipped the page, another photo. This time, a group shot. My dad, Ryan, and a small group of teenage boys. One of them had a black eye. Another was in a wheelchair. It looked like some kind of outreach program. And then I saw it. A caption written in my father's sharp, angular handwriting. Redemption Project, 2008. Ryan Weller, transferred out after incident. My heart stopped. Incident? I stared at the name. It was my husband. There was no doubt. But what incident? Why had he never told me he knew my dad before? Why had my dad never said a word? I snapped a photo of the page and left. I didn't grab the books. I didn't close the cabinet. I didn't even lock the front door behind me. I just drove, with shaking hands, and a stomach that felt like it was filled with stones. That night, I confronted Ryan. He was in the kitchen, scrolling through his phone when I walked in with the photo on my screen. You knew my dad before we met, I said. My voice wasn't angry. It was cold. I felt distant from myself. He looked at the screen and for a moment, his face went pale. Where did you get that? Answer the question. He paused. Okay, he said slowly. Yes, I was part of a youth rehabilitation program. Your dad ran it. I didn't tell you because it was a long time ago. I was a messed up kid. He helped me turn things around. What incident? His mouth tightened. It doesn't matter anymore. Don't do that. Don't lie to me. He slammed the phone on the counter, suddenly defensive. What do you want me to say, Emily? That I wasn't perfect. That I did some stupid things when I was 17. Your dad knows I changed. But something in his tone and the way his eyes darted told me he was hiding something bigger, something worse. And now I needed to know exactly what. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay beside Ryan, his breath slow and steady, like he didn't just confess to hiding years of history with my father. Like nothing had changed, but everything had changed. The words transferred out after incident spun in my head like a broken carousel, over and over again. What was it? A fight? A theft? Something worse? At 3:12 a.m., I gave up on sleeping. I slid out of bed, crept into the living room, and opened my laptop. I started Googling. Redemption Project plus Jack Carter plus Ryan Weller. Nothing. Ryan Weller plus arrest plus 2008. Boom. There it was. A short archived article in the Richmond County Gazette dated July 2008. Teen removed from youth rehabilitation home after assault incident. A 17-year-old participant in the Redemption Project, Ryan Weller, was transferred out of the Carter facility after a violent altercation involving another teen and a staff member. No formal charges were filed, but the incident reportedly caused tensions within the program. I blinked. Assault? A staff member? My dad? My stomach dropped. The article was vague, almost suspiciously so, but now the pieces were forming a terrible picture. Ryan wasn't just a kid with a rough past. He hurt someone, maybe even my dad. And still, my father had never told me. I called him the next day. He didn't answer. I tried again, and again. On the 5th try, he picked up. Emily, he said flatly. I took a deep breath. I found the photo albums. A long pause. You weren't supposed to. Then maybe you should have thrown them out. Another pause. His voice softened. I kept them because I needed to remind myself that even good people can make mistakes. Even me. I felt tears sting my eyes. Tell me what happened, Dad, please, I need to know. He exhaled, not annoyed, but tired, like he'd been carrying something too heavy for too long. He was a liar, he said. From day one. Charming. Smart. Manipulative. I brought him in thinking he was just another lost kid who needed structure. And for a while, he played the part. Then what happened? One of the younger boys, Kyle, caught him stealing medication. Ryan got angry. He attacked him, knocked out 2 of his teeth. I covered my mouth. I stepped in, my dad continued. Ryan hit me too, split my eyebrow open. The cops came, but Kyle refused to testify. He was terrified. Ryan was transferred out within a week. Why didn't you tell me when I started dating him? Because I didn't think you'd believe me, and because I kept hoping I was wrong, that maybe he really had changed. But the moment I saw his eyes at dinner, I knew he hadn't. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there in silence, the world spinning. I'm sorry, Em, he said softly. I wanted to protect you. I tried the best I could. But love, it makes us blind. Then quietly, I miss you. I broke. I miss you too. But even with the truth out in the open, one question still haunted me. If Ryan was really that dangerous, what else had he been hiding from me? I wish the story ended there. That I confronted Ryan, he admitted everything, apologized, and we started the long, painful process of healing. But that would have been too easy. After that call with my dad, I couldn't look at Ryan the same. His touch made my skin crawl. Every I love you felt like a script. And every time he left the apartment, I caught myself wondering where he really was. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I snooped. It started with his wallet, receipts, business cards, some old cash. Nothing suspicious. Then his nightstand. Just books, charger, passport. Wait, why was his passport there? Ryan wasn't traveling anywhere, at least not that I knew of. I tried to brush it off, but the gnawing feeling didn't go away. So I went further. One afternoon, while Ryan was at a client dinner, I logged into his laptop. He never logged out of anything, a creature of habit. First, I opened his email. Nothing odd. Then his Google history. That's where it got weird. He had several searches in incognito mode. Nothing showed directly, but the browser history revealed frequent logins to a website I didn't recognize. Noble Connect. I Googled it. Turns out it was a private online forum for reformed felons, people who'd done time but in halfway houses or were part of recovery programs. It wasn't illegal, but it wasn't the kind of place Ryan ever mentioned being part of either. I clicked further, and then it happened. I found his account. Username, rebuilder_88. That alone wouldn't have meant much, except I recognized the photo. A black and white picture of a tattoo on Ryan's wrist. One he told me he got removed years ago. Apparently not. The messages were public. Threads about relapse, violence, control. And then one post dated 3 months after our wedding stopped me cold. You can fake it for a while. Clean clothes, smiles, manners. But underneath, that need to dominate, to control, it never leaves. You just get better at hiding it. I slammed the laptop shut. My heart pounded so hard I felt dizzy. Who the hell had I married? When Ryan came home, I pretended to be asleep, but my mind was racing. I thought about the subtle red flags I ignored. How he insisted we split bills exactly 50/50ths, but always criticized how I spent my half. How he charmed my friends at first, then slowly isolated me from them. How he insisted on privacy, never sharing passwords, never letting me answer his phone. How I used to laugh less, smile less, shrink more. It wasn't just lies. It was control. The next morning, I called my dad again. I need to get out. He didn't ask questions. He just said, pack a bag, come home. But before I left, I needed to know everything. No more guessing. No more half-truths. So I opened Ryan's closet and pulled down the box he kept on the top shelf. The one he said held tax stuff. Inside wasn't paperwork. It was a hidden phone. A burner. I turned it on. And what I found on it nearly made me scream. The phone buzzed to life, glowing dimly in my shaking hands. No password. Of course, people who hide things often assume they're too smart to get caught. I opened the messages first. The most recent one was from just 2 days ago. A number with no name. The text read, she's still clueless, but getting nosy. Might need to shut it down soon. I felt my throat close. She's still clueless. Was that about me? Who else could it be? I scrolled further down. Dozens of messages, some short, some long. All sent to 2 or 3 recurring numbers, none saved under names. You were right. The dad's still a problem. She doesn't know the past. She's in. Legally married now. Asset situation will clear in 3 months. Can't push too hard or she'll bolt. Need her to stay put until a handoff. I covered my mouth with both hands, dizzy with nausea. Asset situation? Handoff? Was I? Part of some plan? Then I saw the photos. Dozens of them. Some were of me, sleeping, working. On a Zoom call in my pajamas. Others were screenshots of our joint bank account, credit cards, insurance documents. And one was of my father, taken from across the street. He was gardening, smiling. Underneath that photo, a text. Still no leverage. Might need alternative route. Tears streamed down my face. This wasn't just betrayal. This was something calculated. A strategy. A scheme. I wasn't his wife. I was a target. I took photos of everything on my own phone. Every text. Every image. Then I backed it all up to the cloud, shoved the burner in my bag, and started packing. Ryan wasn't home yet, thank God. I grabbed a few clothes, my laptop, passport, chargers, and a framed picture of me and my dad from when I was 5. I didn't leave a note. I just left. I drove straight to my childhood home. My dad opened the door before I even rang the bell. He must have seen my headlights from the window. When he saw my face, red, wet, trembling, he didn't say a word. He just pulled me into his arms and held me like he did when I scraped my knee in 2nd grade. I'm sorry, Dad, I choked. I didn't listen. I should have listened. He kissed my forehead. You're safe now. That's all that matters. That night we sat at the kitchen table while I showed him everything on my phone. He didn't flinch. He was never just some troubled kid, he said. He was a manipulator, a long game player. I knew it back then, but no one believed me. What do I do now? He looked at me. We go to the police. And that's exactly what we did. The detective listened to everything, took my phone, the burner, the photos, the messages. They opened an investigation immediately. Apparently, Ryan had done something similar before. Changed names, manipulated women, isolated them, drained finances. But no one ever had proof. Until now. The next morning I got a call. Ryan had vanished, gone before they could bring him in. No note, no trace. And somehow, I knew he wouldn't come back for me. Not because he was done, but because I had become a liability. Ryan Weller had vanished. The man I married. The man who said he loved me. The man who was planning something far darker than I could have ever imagined. He didn't just disappear from our apartment, he vanished from the city entirely. No security footage. No phone signal. No financial transactions. It was like he'd never existed. The detectives told me it wasn't the first time. Guys like him, the lead investigators said, they live like shadows. Multiple IDs, ghost accounts, disguises. He probably had an exit plan before you even met. That thought made me physically ill. I stayed with my dad for weeks. Every day the police called with updates, frozen accounts, tracked devices, intercepted emails. Ryan had vanished internationally. They suspected South America or Eastern Europe. My mind kept replaying the messages from the burner phone. She's still clueless. Wait for the handoff. What did that mean? Who was he working with? Then came the letter. Not an email. Not a text. An actual letter, mailed to my dad's address. No return address, no name. Just my name in tight, controlled handwriting. Inside was one sheet of paper. No greeting. No signature. Just one line. You weren't the first, and you won't be the last. I dropped the paper like it was on fire. The police took the letter immediately. Prints, handwriting analysis, the works. But there was no way to trace where it came from. All they could do was warn me. If you see him, don't engage. Call us immediately. He's dangerous. I started therapy soon after that. Not just because of Ryan, but because of the guilt, the shame. The disbelief that I, someone raised by the most honorable man I've ever known, could fall for someone so calculating, so hollow. I had to rebuild everything. My sense of trust, my identity, my life. One night, I sat with my dad on the porch. We hadn't talked about it in days. Do you think he'll come back? I asked. He looked at the stars, took a long breath. Not for you, he said. Not anymore. You're not his target. You're his mistake. I nodded, quiet, grateful. Then he added, but if he ever does, he'll regret it. Months passed, then a year. The investigation officially stalled. No new leads, no arrests. Ryan Weller became another name in a closed file. But I wasn't the same. I moved states, changed jobs, changed my last name. I started speaking at local women's groups about coercive control, red flags, and how manipulation doesn't always look like fists. Sometimes it looks like love. Sometimes it wears a wedding ring. People ask me if I'll ever date again. Maybe, maybe not. But I know this. If I do, he'll have to pass the Jack Carter test. And this time, I'll listen.